So there we go. Charlie and I are very pleased that you could make it today for our webinar. We want to share with you both our enthusiasm for the program and highlight some of the key features that define what the program's about. So we've got a couple of goals for the program. We want to make sure that you come away from today's meeting with a better sense of what this thing is all about. What does it mean to be in an honors program in political science? And have some sense about, give you some sense about who I think, at least, a program like this is best suited for. It's not for everybody. And so in the end, we want to make sure that you've got the information you need to decide whether this program is the right fit for you, your ambitions, your goals, before you start the application process for admissions. So as Charlie indicated, we're going to break the period into two parts. There'll be a kind of formal presentation on my part, and then a Q&A session. And the Q&A is probably the most important part. Most of my presentation is a rehash of what you'll find on the Poli-Sci Honors webpage. But as Charlie indicated, that webpage has undergone substantial change in the last couple of weeks. So our working assumption is that not many of you have yet seen those changes, or even if you have seen it, you might benefit from a more distilled presentation of the key points. So that's what I want to do for you here. And lastly, I want to say I'm not here as a marketing agent for the program, in the sense that I'm not trying to persuade as many of you as I can as consumers to give our product a try. We've got a great product, and I hope I can communicate that to you. But we're looking for quality, not just quantity. This program is designed for a select group of poli-sci majors who've got the talent, they've got the drive, they've got the discipline to successfully undertake a challenging and a demanding, but an ultimately rewarding opportunity to conduct original scholarly research and package it in a manner that's polished and professional, so that you can circulate it to whoever is important to you to circulate. For the right individual, this can be a very satisfying capstone to your undergraduate experience. It can also be a platform for pivoting to the first stage of your post-baccalaureate lives. For the wrong individual, it's an enormous drain of your time and energy without an appropriate payoff. There might be something else, in other words, that you could have been doing with that time and energy and giving you greater satisfaction. So the first thing you need to sort of think about, is this really something you want to do? It's your job to decide whether this particular investment of your limited resources is going to give you the kind of return on investment that you're hoping for. All right, so who will benefit from this program? Who's going to profit from writing a honors thesis? Those most likely to benefit. And I've got 4 points I want to make here, but they're sort of overlapping. So keep that in mind here. But most importantly, this program is designed for poli-sci majors who think they might want to go and do graduate work in political science, and who need a high quality writing sample to submit along with their application package to, the best school you can get into. Likewise, for anyone applying for professional schools or some other line of career, whether it's in government, nonprofits, the private sector, where you've got an ability to demonstrate excellence, and where that can give you a competitive advantage: excellence in argument, excellence in analysis, excellence in methodological technique, excellence in the simple ability to communicate complex ideas simply and effectively. Thirdly, the program might be right for somebody who just loves research. They may not know whether they want to go to on to study political science, but they know they enjoy the process of research. They've got an idea or a question that they're passionate about, and they want to undertake a project that might scratch that itch a little bit and maybe take their research and writing skills to the next level. And then finally, the program might be right for someone who's looking for a capstone experience to their time as an undergraduate in poli-sci, as a major in poli-sci. Someone who wants to take let's call it an extended peek under the hood as to what professors do when they're not in the classroom teaching. Who's least likely to benefit? Here I sort of try to tread a little more softly because, you never know. You never know. I don't want to dissuade anybody who might turn out to be a fine honor student. But who's least likely to benefit? I would say somebody who's mostly looking for a resume line they think might look impressive. I've been on a lot of graduate admission committees here at UCLA in political science, and I can tell you this: because of grade inflation, grades, letters of recommendation, and even lines on a resume that say honors, honors, don't weigh with me as much as you might think. What matters to me, there are two things I go for in a graduate admissions package. I go to the statement of purpose, and most importantly, I go to the writing sample. Why? Because that's where I get unmediated access to you, to your mind, how you think, what you can do. And I get a lot more mileage out of that information than I do from the other things. Everybody's got great grades. Everybody's got great letters of recommendation. Everyone has an impressive resume. Not everyone can write. And what this program does is give you an opportunity to write and an opportunity to have something substantial to write about. Who else might not benefit from the program? Again, take this with a grain of salt. But if you're overcommitted in the number of responsibilities or the number of ambitious extracurricular activities you undertake, you may not have the space for this. This takes an enormous commitment of time and energy, and you've got to create the space for it. If you can't find that space, you might become frustrated. And I would hate to see anybody spend 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months doing this process just to realize at the end that you're not going to make it across the finish line. That's unfortunate. So, if you don't think you've got the space, that you can create the space for this, maybe you want to think twice. Those who might be studying abroad or spending a quarter in Washington, again, I want to be cautious about this, but all I'm saying is you'll be in a place where you're meeting lots of new people, you're doing lots of new things, you might be sightseeing, you've got your educational responsibilities or your internship responsibilities, and all of a sudden, a quarter or so is gone and you haven't made the progress you thought you were going to make on your dissertation, on your thesis. So be careful about that. Make the space. It's a commitment of time and effort, and it's got to have a kind of priority in your personal schedule. Finally, there are those of you who might be thinking about graduating early. And by early, I mean, like, let's say in the fall, next fall. This is a year-long commitment. And so you've got to be around for a year to get this done. If you're graduating early, let's say in the winter quarter, that's fine. You will have time to commit the full year to the process. That's not a big deal. But make sure, again, you're going to be around for the year, because there's no getting around it. There's no alternative path. You make the commitment or you don't. Let's talk a little bit about the admissions process to the honors program, because that is in some ways one of the bigger components of change that we've undertaken, mostly to try to bring ourselves into alignment with other graduate programs, both here at UCLA and in the UC system in general. But so here's some details I want you ought to listen closely for. First of all, you will be required to submit an application for preliminary admission to the honors program. There is now an application process. It is for preliminary admission. There are links on our departmental honors webpage, 2 links. One will allow you to obtain that application form. The second will be to submit your application along with the supporting documents that you will need to upload along with that application. Applications are due no later than Friday of week 8 of winter quarter. So this time around, that means March 3rd, 2023. If I did that right, Charlie will tell me if I did that wrong, but I think that's right. What is a complete application? There's sort of 4 components to a complete application. The first component is a typed 1-page statement where you will explain why you want to participate in our department's honors program and why you think you're qualified to undertake a large-scale research project. Second, you want to submit a typed 1-page description of your research topic and your preliminary research question. What do we mean by a research question versus a research topic? I can give you sort of an example. An example of a research topic might be something like, and I'm an Americanist. I study American politics. I teach the presidency. So a research topic in an area of interest to me might be something like presidential power and its growth over time as a topic, as a research topic. Presidential power and the way it has grown over time since the founding of this country. Research question is more focused. It demands an answer of some sort or another. Why have presidents accumulated so many different emergency powers over the last century or more? To what extent have presidents seized those powers themselves? To what extent has Congress voluntarily ceded that authority, those powers, to the president? What are the consequences for American democracy? Research question, as it implies, has a focused question that you need to go out and try to answer. Third, you need a completed application form that is signed by your faculty mentor. Everyone has to have a faculty mentor. Faculty mentors are not assigned to you. You have to go out and recruit them. They have the power to say no. So you've got to get them to yes. So it helps, for example, to have had that faculty person you want to get as an instructor in a class, maybe 2. Maybe you want to spend a little time in their office hours, getting to know them, having them get to know you, show interest in their research. Make it hard for them to say no, which also means when you're ready to ask if they will be your faculty mentor, go talk to them in person. It's a lot harder to say no to somebody in person than when you send, a request through an email or something like that. Don't do that. It can be hard, but it's a first test. The whole process is going to be hard. Not all instructors are eligible to be faculty mentors. Your faculty member must be either permanent ladder faculty or hold a joint or courtesy appointment with our department. Who are these individuals? Well, if you go to our poli-sci website, click on people and then click on faculty, you'll see a complete list of eligible ladder faculty and other associated faculty. So that will be your master list. Go to the poli-sci website, click on people, click on faculty, and there you'll have the list of candidates. But hopefully you've been taking a course with somebody and they interest you. What they talk about interests you. Maybe you've written a paper for that instructor and you've gotten a good grade. Interesting comments from them. Go talk to them and ask them if maybe you could extend this paper into a research project for an honors thesis. And then finally, you're going to need your most recent UCLA transcript, something that includes your winter quarter enrollments. Nothing here is determinative, but we need to make sure you're on track to be able to hit certain benchmarks for GPA and number of poli-sci classes taken. I'll give you more information on that in a second. Finally, I should mention that we aim for an honors cohort of roughly 20 to 22 students each year. So I don't know how many applications we'll have, but the more applicants we get, more applications we get, the more competitive the process is going to be. So put your best foot forward. Take the time to invest in your 2 one-page statements. Use the full page if you can say something substantial. Don't just fill it to fill it, but don't leave it with a short paragraph. I always hesitate to say those things. So some people can be very compelling with a few words. Others take more space. But do what's best for you, but put your best foot forward. All admissions decisions are final, and those who are admitted preliminarily to the program will receive a PTE, a permission to enroll, for spring quarter in Political Science 191H, which is the research design seminar for honor students. It's the course that starts the process. Final admission to the honors programs will be determined only after the completion of 191H at the end of spring. At that time, to be admitted formally into the honors program, you have to have a grade of A- or better in 191H, the research seminar. You have to have a GPA in the major of at least 3.5. You have to have an overall GPA at UCLA of 3.5 or higher. And you have to have completed at least 5 upper division poli-sci courses by the end of spring quarter. We used to do it where you had to have 5 courses completed at the start of spring when you started the research design course. We changed that to the end of spring to accommodate transfer students who need a little bit more time to possibly get those 5 courses. Again, final admissions decisions will be final. And if you are admitted formally to the program, to remain a program member in good standing, you must maintain your minimum GPAs, 3.5, both in the major and overall, for the duration of the program. Honors sequence. Let's talk a little bit about, we've been saying that this is a year-long process. So let me just describe to you a little bit of what that looks like. The program starts in the spring quarter of your junior year, typically. It ends at the conclusion of the winter quarter of your senior year and culminates with the production of a 50-page honors thesis. That's the big, that's the big prize, one that makes a substantially original contribution to knowledge. When I was in my first day as a graduate student in political science, and I did my graduate work here at UCLA, one of the faculty, Jim DiNardo, spoke to us and said, what the difference between undergraduates and graduate students is? None of us really knew. Maybe we're a little older, maybe not. He said, undergraduates consume knowledge. Graduate students produce knowledge. And I've always remembered that because it captures something essential. And what you're being asked to do as an honors student is to make that transition from being a consumer of knowledge to being a producer of knowledge. So we take it seriously that your job is not just to go out and tell us what other people have been saying on a topic, but to make an original contribution to knowledge. That's what your 50 pages is for. That's why it is 50 pages. The honors sequence, spring quarter. That's the research design seminar I was telling you about. It's a 4-unit course. It is taught by the program director, so that will be me in 2023. And the purpose of the class is to teach you how to organize a senior thesis, how to organize a research project that will produce original knowledge. The class will culminate with a polished research prospectus. That's the goal of the course, that each of you will end that quarter-long process with a polished research prospectus. What is a research prospectus? You might think of it as a kind of elaborate statement of intent or plan of action, a blueprint, if you will, that explains in detail how you will focus your efforts over the next 9 months as you execute your research project. A prospectus tells your reader what your research question is, how it fits in a body of scholarly literature that investigates similar themes and raises similar questions. It identifies what your preliminary answer is to that research question. It explains why your answer constitutes an original contribution to knowledge. And finally, it explains how you plan to go about the process of collecting data and analyzing that data so that you can verify or falsify your answer along with those of your major competitors. To answer the question, why is my answer to this question better than my rivals, my competitors? That's how we demonstrate an original contribution. So that's the spring quarter. We'll get you your prospectus. So you've got a plan of action. You're ready to go do your research. In the summer, you'll begin your research process. At the end of spring and just, leading into summer, your job will be to consult with your faculty member, develop a detailed plan of action covering the summer months. What those plans of action are will be determined by your faculty mentor and you. They vary according to the individual, but we want you to have some purpose moving into the summer months so that you don't lose the momentum you've gained during the spring. And at the conclusion of summer, students will be required to submit a progress report to sort of detail what you got accomplished during the summer and submit that both to your faculty mentor and to the program director. There's no special honors courses or anything you have to enroll in during the summer. It's an informal process between your faculty mentor and you, and in the end, including me with the progress report. That'll take you into the fall and winter quarters, where each student is required to enroll in 2 4-unit 198 contract courses with your faculty mentor, 1 in the fall, 1 in the spring, 198 contract course in the fall, a second one in the winter. For each of your 198, you will talk to your faculty mentor. You'll agree on a schedule of meetings throughout the quarter. The content of those meetings is designed to ensure that you maintain some kind of timely progress on your research and writing, and give you structured opportunities to problem solve when you run into difficulties. You've got a way to talk to your faculty mentor on a regular basis, resolve those problems, and recapture your momentum. Everything culminates at the end of winter quarter when your honors thesis is due to be submitted. As I said, that's at the end of the winter quarter, and recognize that's a hard deadline. So if you're someone who has trouble meeting deadlines, you make sure you meet this one. We've got a lot of administrative work to do once you submit, not just the reading and grading, but there's a whole administrative process to get people ready to receive their honors certificates by the time the graduation ceremony comes around. So we've got a hard deadline on that. Let's talk a little bit about the evaluation of honors theses and the levels of honors that you can be awarded. Each thesis will be read both by your faculty mentor and by me, the program director. There are 3 possible honors outcomes. One, of course, is no departmental honors. The second is departmental honors. And the third is departmental highest honors. No honors, honors, highest honors. So let's talk about eligibility. To be eligible for departmental honors, an honors student must meet the following criteria: a final thesis grade of at least B+, a minimum overall GPA in the major of 3.5, a minimum overall UCLA GPA of 3.5, and completion of 191H with an A- or better. To be eligible for departmental highest honors, you've got to jump a much higher hurdle. Now, I should preface this by saying that we don't have formal authorization yet on this component of the program, but it's in the works, and we expect to get that authorization quickly. So I want you to sort of preview so you've got all the information at your disposal. To be eligible for highest honors, a student has to receive a final grade of A+ on the thesis and have a minimum GPA in the major of 3.85 or higher. This is meant to be a mark of uncommon achievement. Most people will get honors. If you want to shoot for highest honors, we've got a high bar for you. It's a bar that can be achieved, but it's a high bar. And then finally, I'll stop at this point. We're pleased to announce the creation of a Distinguished Undergraduate Scholar Award that will be given out each year at the graduation ceremony to the student judged whose thesis is judged to have made the greatest contribution to scholarship in the discipline of political science for that year. We are in the process of trying to work out a cash prize to attach to that. But we are in the process of trying to find a dedicated funding source. So this first time around, it might be a little on the smaller side, but we hope that by the time we've got the funding secured into the future, we'll be able to offer something a little more substantial. I think that's about all I have to say, Charlie, other than I have tried to highlight both the process and what I think, you need to think about on your side before you decide. But I also want to sort of close by just again underscoring what a sort of satisfying process this can be for the right person. Just ask if you know anyone who has completed this process, it can be a real sort of capstone experience, just to repeat myself, something you will remember for a long time, and that really sort of show what you have accomplished through all your hard work and studying through the course of your time at UCLA. So thanks very much for your time. I'm interested for any questions you might have, things I might have forgotten, or things that I could go over better, or just things that are on your mind.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll read them off. So far, Scott, no questions yet. So
Okay.
we give them about 10 seconds. Maybe they're typing as we speak.
I can't believe I was just that good. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there we go. I can read it for you. Would it be possible for one studying abroad winter and spring 2023 to participate? So I guess they're going to be studying abroad winter and spring. Okay.
So the answer there would be no. You have to be in class to participate in the research design seminar after the spring of 2023. Well, I'm talking about a cohort of students who would start the process in the spring of 2023. There you need to be physically present. There's no real other option there. After that, yeah, I think you can. Again, I personally not crazy about the idea, but it's doable. I just think it puts you, just my experience in the last 3 years is those who study abroad have a harder time just staying on top of the process, because you're under the enormous stimulus of a big experience. But yes, you can.
All right, we got one other question. Can we choose an assistant professor to be our mentor?
Yes.
Yes. Easy enough. All right, next question. If you submit your paper early and don't get a B+, are you able to keep trying for a better score?
No.
No. Okay.
So just make sure you're ready to submit it when you submit it. Rather than submit it, talk to your advisor, talk to your faculty mentor about what you're doing and what you're writing, and get your feedback before you submit, not after.
Okay. I have another question. Would taking political science 191H be a good way to feel if continuing in the honors program is for me?
Yes, there are always folks who complete 191H and then decide, you know what, this wasn't what I thought it was, and I've got other things I could do with my time. And you'll still get something, you'll get that experience out. But 191H works best when you've got students who've got a real research idea they want to explore. If you don't know what you want to do, then you're just kind of moving through a process that seems a little abstract, because we'll be talking about how to write a prospectus. And if you don't have something to write a prospectus about, it's kind of an empty experience. But yes, you can exit the honors program at any time you want it without a cost to you. So I hope I answered that question, Charlie. I'm a little more doubtful that I may not have.
They didn't give up a follow-up, so I'm assuming you answered it correctly.
Okay.
I have another question. So just move because someone else came in. When would you recommend we begin approaching faculty members to mentor us in the research program?
That's a hard one. I always say the sooner the better, because you don't know if you're going to get them to yes or not, and then you want to have time to follow up on a second or a third person if need be. There's no sense in going so early that you're just kind of, in polling, we talk about cold calls, right? Or in raising money, cold calls. You don't want to make a cold call to your faculty mentor, your proposed faculty mentor. You want to give time to kind of warm them up a little bit. So make sure you give yourself the lead time to create an environment where you're most likely to get them to yes.
Thank you for that. And it had a second part too. And they also asked, what are the most important factors you search for in these one-page statements included in the application?
I want to see somebody who's ready to succeed, somebody who's kind of ready to hit the ground running on day one. Now, that doesn't mean that your project can't change over time. In fact, I expect it to change. The more you learn, the more the more you're able to really, with nuance, start to shape your project the way it works. And you'll be interacting with me, you'll be interacting with your faculty mentor, and so things will change, especially as you get a feel for what it means to do original research. Original research doesn't mean kind of locking yourself in a dark room and trying to sort of meditate on what is originality, right? It means finding a scholarly community that works on a research question similar to yours and trying to engage that community. What are their arguments? How do they go about what kinds of answers do they provide to that question? What are the methodologies they use for trying to get at their answers? What do I think some of the stronger answers and methods are? How can I interject myself into this ongoing conversation over what knowledge is in this area and find my own contribution? That's what scholars do. You stand on the shoulders of others. If you find yourself just trying to write a paper that no one else is in an area that no one else seems to have an interest in, you're probably off on the wrong track. I mean, you might be one of those once in a century geniuses. We don't want to preclude that possibility, but if you pick up any top tier journal of political science, or even second tier, third tier, they all start with a literature review. Here's what other people are saying about my topic, and here are what I think are the limitations of what those other people are saying, and here's how I plan to address those limitations and make a contribution to knowledge.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Scott. And let's see if we have one final question, if there's no more questions. Would a thesis based on social issues within the inner city be appropriate for the project?
Well, remember that this is a political science honors program, so I can only give you a general answer there because it's a bit broad as a question. But if you can find a political science professor who signs off on your question, that is a really good indication that you're on to an appropriate question. If they're saying to you, you know what, it sounds like you belong more in the Luskin public policy program, or in sociology, or some other departmental honors program, then you might have to rethink the nature of your question, or go to that place to get the proper outlet for your question. But if you get a faculty person on our list of ladder faculty to sign off on your question, I'm not going to second guess them. They will be the sort of subject matter experts in that particular area that you're working.
Great. One more question just came in, a great question too. So how broad are the possible research topics? Can the research topic be within any concentration of political science? And they also ask, could our method be qualitative or quantitative, or a mix?
Very good question. So good that I'm going to try to find it because there are so many parts there. There we go. Okay. How broad are the research? Right. Research topic is the broadest part. There's the research topic. There's the question within the topic. There's the answer to the specific answer to the question. A research question can have many answers. You will provide one of them. Many research questions are involved in are under the rubric of a research topic. So yeah, research topics can be broad. Can any research topic be can the research topic be within any concentration of political science? Absolutely. This is not for particular fields, right? If you're in American politics, you're a comparativist, you're IR, you're political theory, whatever else I'm leaving out, you are welcome. You just have to be a political science major asking a political science question that addresses a problem that scholars in political science research and publish on. Oh, and quantitative or qualitative, absolutely, or mixed, absolutely. The question will be, what are the appropriate methods? What are the sort of standard methods that scholars in this area use so that you can address your questions and develop an answer in a way that meets the standards of your research community?
Thank you for that, Scott. This is another good question for transfer students. So basic question, have transfer students participated in the program before?
All the time.
And now we have a lengthier question, but it's a great question. What is the format of the honors thesis? If you could explain that, if it should be in a publication in a journal, or is it more traditional thesis format? And then they finished with, therefore, would it need to be heavily edited for publication?
I don't make a big distinction between a thesis format and a publication format. What we want you to do is model your thesis on published work. One of the first exercises I have for my honor students is to go out and find 2 or 3 models, articles in top-tier political science journals, and read them, not for the substance of what they're saying, but read them for the way they organize their presentation. What are the various parts of a published piece of work, right? There's the intro and setup, there's the literature review, there is the situation of yourself in that literature, identifying the question you're asking and the answer you're provisionally putting forward, developing the key concepts in your explanation, your theory of the case, operationalizing those concepts so that you can measure them in the real world as you go out and study, and then explaining how you went about collecting your data, what your data is, and how you're going to do your analysis, and then doing your analysis and getting out your conclusion. What have I shown? What would the next steps for other scholars interested in following my or building on my research want to do? What are the things I would want to do in the next steps of this line of research? That is what 191H is all about. A prospectus is simply an article that has been proposed but hasn't been executed yet. It's all about the setup. This is what I'm going to do. And then the rest of the 9 months after that is you executing, making good on the plan of what you want to do.
Thank you for that, Scott. It looks like that was the last question.
Okay.
I want to be mindful of people's time. But yeah, I think that's it, Scott. If anyone else has any lasting questions, you can always email me too. It is on right now on the Zoom. It's my email. That's me. I'm going to be the one kind of working under Scott to make sure it flows smoothly, getting those applications into him. So any lingering question, lasting questions, you can always reach out to me. But other than that, Scott, I think that's it on my end.
Terrific.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
thank you for all the great questions. There were some very good ones there. I am also available if you want to shoot a question out to me. If it's procedural matters, you're probably best talking to Charlie, and he can answer a lot of substantive questions too. But I just want you to know that I'm also available.